Welcome to our channel. Today's story is about a young black man who didn't raise his voice. He raised the standard. Who wasn't just pushed to the edges. He rewrote the borders. They said he didn't belong in the neighborhood. So he did something that surprised the neighborhood. Not for revenge, but for restoration. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel. Tap the like button and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support helps us keep bringing you interesting stories that deserves to be heard. Now, let's get into today's story. They watched him like he was an oil stain on a white carpet, like he was something that didn't belong in their picture-perfect world of hydrangeas and custom shutters and white noise. They peeked from behind lace curtains as he parked his matte black Tesla on the corner, Lot glanced from porch swings while pretending to sip coffee, whispered behind fences trimmed too neatly to ever imagine chaos. He walked past it all unfazed, dark-skinned, well-groomed 32. Years old, dressed not to impress, but to command presence, navy slacks, crisp shirt eyes, like quiet fire posture, like a man who'd carried the weight of rejection. So long it had turned into armor. His name was Landon Rucker, and from a moment, he moved into Brookridge Estates. He became the story they tried not to tell out loud. They called it a community, but it functioned more like a gated performance piece of manicured play, pretending at perfection with rules written in invisible ink. Everyone smiled with their teeth and judged with their eyes lawn height, was regulated mailboxes, had custom plaques. The HOA had a board that looked like a country club brochure, and Landon disrupted the choreography, not because of anything he said, but because of everything he represented. He didn't want their approval, didn't crave their compliments. He had come with something more radical than acceptance. He came with ownership. The corner lot had the best view in the neighborhood, a wraparound porch, a direct line to the lake, big windows that caught the morning light. Just right, he chose it, because it reminded him of where he came from, and where he was going. His mother had once cleaned homes, just like it, mopping marble floors while her knees cracked and her back ached. She used to tell him one day he'd live in a place like that. Landon bought it for her, really, so she could sit on a porch. She never had to scrub, so she could walk through a front door without being asked which room she was there to clean. The realtor had smiled too wide when the sale closed, like she couldn't quite believe he qualified for the dream she was selling. They never said the words, but they said everything else. They called in noise complaints when the house was silent. His mail started arriving 2 blocks away. Twice his tires were slashed. The officer, who came out the second time, barely looked up from his clipboard, muttered, "You sure you belong here?" As if Landon had broken into his own driveway. Landon didn't flinch, didn't yell, didn't offend. Instead, he installed cameras, logged dates, kept receipts, and filed reports, knowing the system would fail him. But the silence wouldn't. Because Landon had been here before, not in Brookridge, but in the long hallway of being told no, of walking into rooms where his presence registered as threat, not potential raise, in Southside, making by a mother who worked doubles and a father who disappeared before he could form full sentences. He learned early that dignity was something you earned twice as hard and still might not be granted. He coded his first app on a borrowed laptop, delivered food by day, programmed by night, slept on floors, drank instant coffee, and kept going when investors ghosted. He pitched again when banks said no. He crowdsourced with friends from college. When credit failed him, he built a tech company without flash, without help, without shortcuts. And when it sold for 7 figures, he didn't buy a yacht or a penthouse. He bought the one thing they said he didn't deserve: space in their world. He invited his mother over first month. After moving in, she wore white gloves and a wide-brimmed church hat and brought sweet tea in a glass pitcher. They sat on the porch like royalty, reclaiming a kingdom that never invited them. She sipped slow, smiled wide, and said, "Feels like we belong here." Then a woman passed with a purebred dog and pearls strung too tightly around her neck. She paused, looked at Landon, then his mother, and said, "Oh, is this your boss's place?" "Beautiful home." Landon rose calmly. "No, ma'am, I own this house." Her smile flickered like a weak signal before she walked off without a word. His mother didn't say anything for a long minute, just looked out over the lake. "Baby, you sure this is where you want to be?" Landon nodded slowly. "Not yet, Mama, but I got a plan." And that plan wasn't petty, it was precise. He created an LLC called Brook Equity. No name, no photo. Just a business entity, quiet, clean, and invisible. He started small: foreclosure auction. Here, a family moving out of state. There, he made cash offers above, asking no contingencies, no haggling deals, closed before neighbors even noticed. He never showed up in person, always sent reps and attorneys' names on deeds. Didn't lead back to him until it was too late. The houses began to shift. New tenants moved in, families that didn't look like the brochure, skin shades, deeper kids with box braids and basketball tattoos. and laughter loud enough to shake the HOA's artificial calm. They panicked the board, met in emergency sessions. They tried to amend bylaws, tried to find loopholes, to deny the sale, sent violation notices for grass being half an inch too tall, or for basketball hoops left by the curb. They didn't know Landon had grown fluent in the language exclusion. He'd studied their rules better than they had. Every fine was challenged, every letter responded to with legal precision. By year 3, he quietly owned 9 homes on the same block, and nobody knew until the 10th. Mrs. Galwell had run the HOA like a monarch, white hair pressed into a perfect bob, lived in a sprawling colonial with 4 pillars, and a red door. Had once told her friends, "We keep the wrong people out with good fences and better paperwork." When her divorce cost her more than she could afford, she tried to quietly list her home off-market. Landon's team made the call before the ink dried, offer her $150,000 over asking cash, close in 5 days. She never knew who was behind it until she did. 2 days after she moved out, her friend sent her a screenshot of the county deed transfer there. It was in bold black font, Landon Rucker, owner. She dropped her tea that afternoon. The next morning, every mailbox on the block got a letter. "Dear neighbors, you may not know me, but I've lived here among you for 3 years in plain sight. During that time, I've acquired every home on this block, either directly or through holdings you now lease under my company's umbrella. Welcome to the new Brookridge. I believe in community and equity, not exclusion. If you'd like to discuss renewal options, my office is open. Sincerely, the one you said didn't belong." No one dare question who was in charge. Then the media found out. A local black journalist got the scoop, and when the segment aired, Black Tech founder buys an entire block and neighborhood that tried to push him out. It went viral. Landon declined most interviews, but agreed to sit with one reporter who asked him the question everyone was thinking: "Why'd you do it?" Landon didn't smile big, just offered a quiet one, steady, unshaken. Because power isn't always about raising your voice. Sometimes power is about buying the door they slam in your face and giving others the key. Emails poured in, letters from young black professionals saying they finally felt seen. Single mothers crying into voicemail boxes, thanking him for doing what they were told was impossible. Landon launched a nonprofit called Block by Block, helping families build generational wealth through real estate education, financial literacy, and collective ownership. 3 more cities joined in within 2 years. As for Brookridge, it didn't fall apart. It evolved. Kids played in driveways with different accents and hair textures. Fathers barbecued together after work. Lawn chairs spilled across property lines like friendships. Blooming fences stayed up, but the fear behind them began to come down. Landon still lived in the corner house, still parked the matte black Tesla under the carport, still sipped sweet tea on warm evenings with his mother beside him, her white gloves folded neatly in her lap. She watched the sun fall behind the lake and say, "You did, baby, you bought the whole block." And Landon would nod, not for applause, not for ego, but for something deeper. Because he knew he wasn't built to ask for belonging, he was built to redefine it. He didn't just reclaim a seat at the table. He bought the table, restructured the room, and unlocked the doors for anyone else ever told they didn't belong. And that's the thing about real power. It doesn't yell. It doesn't gloat. It builds in silence. And when the moment's right, it buys every house on the block, not for revenge, but for redemption, for restoration, for legacy. So the next time someone tries to close a door in your face, remember Landon Rucker, the man they tried to erase with whispers and bylaws, who turned exclusion into empire, who turned dismissal into dominion. Because sometimes justice doesn't come loud. It comes with closing papers, with a name on every deed, and a mother sipping tea on a porch she never had to clean again. Life lesson. When they say you don't belong, don't argue with them, prove them wrong in silence, build what they said you could never own, make space for those they try to keep out. Legacy isn't given its claimed injustice. Well, sometimes it wears a suit, walks into a meeting, and says meeting is now in session. Because real power buys a block and leaves the door wide open. If the story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own worth, don't just watch, share it. Subscribe to Black Struggles Untold for more stories that remind the world. Dignity isn't granted, it's claimed. And legacy, that's built block by block. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.